Ready?
That's what's crazy. They can actually do that before a fight.
They can,
It's not going to affect you.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going. Go live.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm here with Travis "My Time" Kauffman.
My time.
We'll be with his father Marshall shortly, but just wanted to kind of recap your event and your first promotional experience this past weekend. Kind of baptized in fire. The main event fell out the day before the fight, which is fairly typical for boxing events, and I thought you handled it pretty well. What was your?
You didn't see me crying in my room.
You have to hold it together. That's what you can't let people see you sweat. You know.
It was tough. I thought it was going to end up hurting things, but it really didn't. It really didn't. I mean, of course, I wanted to give the fans the opportunity to see Kermit once again, and I would have loved for it to be on My Time Promotions. But of course, this event was a blessing for me. As I stated before, it was the very first show my father ever promoted, the very same venue my father used for his first promotional event on my 9th birthday in 1994. So for me to have my very first show 20-something years later, I don't even know how old I am, 25 years later, to have my first show 25 years later at the exact same spot he did, it was a blessing. And I was very shocked the amount of support I got. And I'm very, very appreciative for it. It was a great show and a great turnout, and it definitely wouldn't have been possible without my father, King's Promotions. All you guys that came and helped out and lended a hand, and I'm very appreciative for that.
What would you say the highlight of the night was for you?
The highlight of the night for me is once the fans stopped coming in. I seen when I first started, I was kind of scared. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a bad night. I'm gonna lose a lot of money. And I was like, not this. So the highlight for me was once people stopped coming in before the main event got there, and I seen that there's still chairs open, but there's mainly people a bunch of people standing, and it was a great atmosphere. And I remember that atmosphere from I fought many times there as an amateur, and I think 2 or 3 times as a professional. So just to get that feeling of being back pretty much where I started, it was a blessing. So it was great.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a cool event. Sometimes being in those type of venues not brings back, but it's just a totally different atmosphere than you get when you're in a big arena, that's 3/4 or more empty. To be in a smaller venue where the seats are full, people are standing, and I thought there was great energy too. Even despite the fact that Kermit didn't fight, I mean, it seemed like
I think the fans still enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course, we all wanted to see Kermit fight,
right,
and get it be impressive. But I think it was a great turnout, and I think there's a lot of support for the kids that fought, the amateurs.
Yeah, some of the amateur fights were great. Reading definitely has some excellent talent in the amateur ranks right now.
Absolutely, there's some great kids coming up in the amateurs. We have that kid. I don't know Xavier's last name from what's his gym. I know it's Charlie's Almighty Boxing. I don't know Xavier's last name, so bear with me. Excuse me. We have also his daughter, Charlie's daughter, Faith, who's one of the top amateur females out here in the city. At one point, I was the only name in Reading as an amateur. Still to today, I still hold, being the only one from Reading, born and raised, to be ranked number 1 in the country as an amateur. But after me, we had David Stevens, who was ranked number 1 in the country as like a JO Open, which is different now. When I was an open class fighter, it was 17 to 34. So I was ranked number 1 in the country from 17 to 34. And he became ranked number 1 in the country, but I think it was from like 17 to 18. However, I know Faith, Charlie's daughter, is definitely top 3. I believe Xavier's top 3. And and those kids are excited. And there's many more. There's the gym from Star City Boxing. They have a bunch of good kids there, and there was a bunch of kids on the card.
What did you think about? It seemed to me, you would never know that the fight that ended up being the main event wasn't scheduled to be the main event. I know Kashan had a ton of people out there for him, and the crowd was hyped for that fight. I mean, it was really, people really got into it. Even the fight prior to that with Morales.
I believe Xavier's top 3. Sorry, guys. My phone just went on.
Even the fight before that with Morales and Jared Minor, it was a great energy for the night, and the fights were good. And the main event, I thought, was a really good fight between Kashan and
I think
James
all the
Robinson.
fights were good. There was only 2 pro fights on the card. Luis Morales, opened up the show, and I think he had a chip on his shoulder for something. I don't know if him and the kid that he fought was beefing or whatever.
I think that's just how he is.
I mean, it's just boxing, but it was really good. First time seeing him fight, but these guys are so small. 113 he weighed in at.
Yeah.
I think it's like my right foot.
Yeah.
But it was great. I mean, I love seeing those little guys. Of course, I'm a big guy, so I like seeing knockouts. But to see those guys and go to war was great, and what better place to have it than My Time Promotions.
Right. So what's well then of course Kashan's fight with Robinson. I thought Kashan looked really good.
I thought Kashan
is
has
improving
gotten
with
better
every fight.
and better.
Yeah.
Like confidence to take you a long way. People talk about how bad Deontay Wilder is, and I believe skill-wise he's not one of the best in the division, or of all time. However, his confidence is so strong that's almost impossible to beat when someone's that confident. His confidence is built over 42, 43 fights, whatever it's been, and knocking everyone out, or at least having everyone touch the canvas. So when that confidence is built up, it takes you to another level. So when we have Kashan, who won 4 or 5 fights in a row, against decent opponents, that takes you to another level. I think Kashan has a long way to go, and I'm very proud of it, his work ethic and the fact that he stays in the gym.
Mm-hmm. Since you touched on Deontay Wilder, there's not that many times you get to be with an elite professional at that level. You've been at that level. You fought Luis Ortiz, who I think is still one of the best heavyweights in the division. How impressed were you with Wilder's performance on Saturday?
I think it was a huge setup. I think Wilder set him up the whole fight. I mean, people can sit there and say, "Oh, he didn't throw enough punches," and he didn't. I think they both respected each other a lot. And if you can see, once Luis Ortiz stopped respecting Wilder, that's when he went to sleep. And that's the fact. I mean, the whole fight he respected him and kept his poise at a distance and kept his game plan to a T. And I think even when he got caught, his game plan was on point. The problem is he got too comfortable and didn't respect what he's capable of doing. One thing we know about Wilder hits so hard that, he'll make you read your dog a bedtime story and have your daughter in the doghouse. And so you can't take 1 second off of Wilder, and I think that's what messed Luis Ortiz up. Luis Ortiz looked very, very good in the fight. I thought he was dominating the fight. But Wilder just has that power that be over that like that.
Now, I mean, so as I'm watching the fight, I felt, as it sounds like you did, that Luis Ortiz was winning. In retrospect, it seems like Wilder was trying to set that up the whole time. But how good of a strategy is that going forward against the other best heavyweights in the division? So we already saw that he won't be able to knock out. Well, I won't say he won't be able to knock out Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury can go the distance with him. And if he boxed like that, I mean, he would lose every round on the scorecards against Tyson Fury.
One thing that almost be impossible to do is change Wilder. You don't want to change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Wilder's impossible to prepare for. Impossible. He throws punches from down in Texas. He's fighting up in New York or wherever. And he's awkward. He's fast and strong as an ox. I believe if they try to switch anything about Wilder, except maybe his game plan coming in with the Fury, I think what he has to do with Fury is just be busier.
Be a little
jump
busier.
on him. Jump right on him. Because one thing we know is Fury's not a puncher. He can't hurt Wilder because I don't believe Wilder's chin's the best. However, Wilder doesn't get hit enough. He's been using his jab to dominate fights.
Right.
I believe Wilder needs to jump on him and let his hands go.
I was surprised that he didn't use his jab more often in the fight, at least in the rounds up until the
6th, 7th
knockout
round,
occurred.
right.
Because he can win rounds just with
With
his
just a
jab, and he's tall and rangy enough.
Once again,
to
he
stay out
wasn't
of
fighting.
danger.
He wasn't just fighting, Dominic Brazil or something
True.
like that.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
fighting Luis Ortiz, who
Absolutely.
I believe skill-wise is the best heavyweight right now. Skill-wise, obviously, Wilder has that equilibrium that ended off.
Right.
Wilder, skill-wise, isn't one of the best. However, I think he should go down in history as as a great all-time heavyweight. He's doing what no other heavyweight has done. We could sit here and we could talk trash about him on his skill, and we all know. I think Wilder tell you, I'm not the most skilled. I hit you with this though. I don't need my skill.
Right.
I think that's what he's been depending on all 43 fights, 42 fights, and it's worked every time. So why switch it up? I think Tyson Fury has proven that he can get back up from his punches, which is why I believe Deontay Wilder has to be a little more busier and take a little more chances. I'm excited for that fight. Hopefully I can get to make my comeback on that fight.
So it's scheduled for, is it February 22nd, they said?
That's perfect timing for me. I don't know when their date is, but that's perfect timing for me.
Who would you like to fight right now in the heavyweight division?
Of
Obviously,
course, I
probably-
want money, so Anthony Joshua's the cash cow. Even with Andy Ruiz beating him, Anthony Joshua's the cash cow. However, let's be a realist. I can't just go back out there and jump in with Anthony Joshua.
Right,
Or
that's
something
why
like
I was
that.
asking the question.
So of course I want to get a tune-up fight, maybe 1 or 2 tune-up fights, and get back in the mix. One thing we know about Travis is I can take a punch. I've been hit by one of the hardest punches in the division. I got back up with a smile on my face every time. I would love to get out there and I'll fight anybody. I don't give a shit. I mean, whoever.
What about Areola again? 'Cause that was a good fight. I mean, a lot of people thought you might have won that fight.
I did win that fight. Just unfortunately, the judges didn't see it that way.
That was a very entertaining fight.
I would have it again. I honestly believe I knock Ariola out. No offense to Ariola. I love him as a brother. I mean, but I believe I knock him out.
I always also thought it would, obviously, you're not with the same promoter, but Brian Jennings would be a great fight.
I would love to fight Brian Jennings. Brian Jennings is crafty. I've done a lot of sparring rounds with him. Whoever it is, I don't care who I fight. Honestly, I mean, the reality is I'm a fighter. I don't look at boxing as a business, unfortunately. Maybe I should. I'd make a lot more money. But I am a real old school type fighter that, if they call us, hey, Trav, we're going to fight this guy. It's X amount of dollars. Okay, shit, let's go. I want to fight.
We got so we have some Ivan Robinson tuned in. Hey, Ivan, what's up? We got a lot of people tuning in. He said true Travis and then true again Travis. I'm not sure what he was saying true to, but we got a little bit of a delay, unfortunately. But thanks, Ivan. Thanks. We got Jonathan Torres,
I'm surprised I'm not seeing these.
Buddy Bells, Darther Smith. But I don't know, anything else you want to talk about before?
Obviously I made my promotional debut. Don't get too comfortable with that because it's going to happen because I enjoyed it. It's very scary though. I prefer to be on the opposite side of the promotional thing. I prefer to beat people up and get paid for it. Because when we have issues that happen with Kermit, I want to become that boxer again. I want to fly out to California and be a fighter. I wanted to go beat somebody up because I feel like they paid me for my money. So I have to learn to separate the fighter in me compared to the business. And honestly, right now, I boxing is all I've ever done. So I'm sure that will be where I end up. But promoting is not my focus. Promoting was something I wanted to do to make a couple dollars and to get the taste of it. But that's not my passion right now. Could it happen? Absolutely. I still want to promote. If I get the opportunity to continue to promote, I honestly plan on doing four amateur shows a year. Just to keep these kids. We got these local kids out here who need to fight. Who I wish, as an amateur, I was 52-12. I wish I had more fights. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I was a super heavyweight, so it was a lot harder back then. So I just want to keep these kids busy. But my focus right now is to get back in the ring and fight and continue to prove myself. I mean, don't let these grades fool you. I'm still young and still pretty, but I really want to fight and get back in the ring, and that's my main focus. Promoting is going to be something that does happen because it's in my blood. My father's been doing it my whole life. So yeah, I'm excited.
All right, man. Well,
He just got to lose his belly and get his. Well, I don't know. Andy Ruiz had it, made it look good for us.
yeah. Well, the word is he's in a lot better. His body looks different this time around.
I personally, Andy Ruiz has tried to lose weight before when he fought Joseph Parker. He tried to lose some weight. Before that, earlier in his career, he tried to lose weight, and he just doesn't seem as good.
Yeah.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Same thing with Wilder. People. The problem. The problem with you mess up the whole green screen. See that? The problem with us big boys is that we're so worried about. It's a stigma. People are, oh, you're fat, you're out of shape, you can't fight, you're this, you're that, you're unhealthy. Look at that! Look what that fat boy did. He beat the shit out the quote unquote best heavyweight in the world. And I figured that was going to happen. I believe this fight's going to be different. I still get leaning towards Andy Ruiz. I'm like back and forth.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And the only reason why is just because Andy Ruiz has lost all the weight. I personally feel if it isn't broke, don't fix it. You don't have that same leverage behind you. You're not able to absorb the same amount of punch. I take a better punch at anywhere from 225 to 235 compared to 220.
And there are some athletes, we've talked about this before, they're just better when they have a little fat on their body. That's their natural.
Plus the ladies love the big boys, man. That's why you guys are all out. I'm in. No, but I'm still cheering for Andy Ruiz. The fights in Saudi Arabia, I personally feel like it wasn't over in America for a reason, doping reasons. But I'm not here to say that. I don't know for sure if Joshua is on.
You kind of just said.
But I do believe he is on.
So what do you mean by that?
I believe he's taking a
talking.
needle and putting it in his ass to make him feel good and strong. Same thing Luis Ortiz does. Same thing many others have done. But it's accepted. So any good doctors call me. No, I'm joking. But no, it's I just believe that the fight is gonna. I believe Andy Ruiz has a bigger heart. I believe Andy Ruiz still has that edge because of his heart. Because Anthony Joshua has showed us all something most people didn't know. As a fighter, I've seen it. I've seen it in him in his eyes many times when he fought Klitschko. But he showed something different in Klitschko fight. He got dropped and got back up. This fight, when he got dropped, kept getting dropped and was looking for a way out. I think he underestimated Andy Ruiz. I don't believe he's underestimating this time, so I believe it's going to be a better fight. But we shall see.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a hard fight to call. I think I'm leaning toward Ruiz just because, Ruiz didn't win that fight with one punch. I mean, he kind of took Joshua's heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And I don't know after a fight like that, does a guy get it back? And people have compared that fight with Ruiz and Joshua to Rahman and Lewis, but I thought that was very different. That was kind of a freak punch, caught Lewis, put him out, and he just had to make sure that he was a little more tight and didn't let that happen again. This to me just seems different. It's hard for me to think that, Ruiz is not going to hit Joshua at some point. Ruiz already demonstrated that he can take Joshua's best shot and get back up from it. And so how does he kind of overcome the psychology of that Joshua this time around?
I don't see Joshua being able to keep his poker face for 12 rounds. I believe Andy will get to him. My problem is, will Andy be able to stay up with the power this time, being that he lost all the weight? That's my only question. I'm still giving Andy Ruiz the edge, but I'm like tossing and turning on who I feel will win, and it's only because of Andy Ruiz's weight. Last time when Andy said Andy Ruiz was going to fight, I picked Andy Ruiz. I said, you guys would be shot. I didn't pick Andy to knock him out.
Right.
I picked Andy to either make him quit, which is what he really did, but I thought he was going to quit on a stool. They stopped it, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken correctly.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I do get hit in the head for a living. But they in the corner, he didn't want to fight no more. I thought what was going to happen.
He turned his back to the referee after a knockdown.
I thought what was going to happen is that he wasn't going to come out of the corner. Maybe like the 11th round is exhaustion. But I didn't expect it like that. And Andrew Ruiz is a true warrior. I mean, he shows a great chin, phenomenal heart, and hard to take you a long place. But it could also get you in trouble.
True.
Want me to get in there with him for a little bit? Yeah. And then
Yep.
Instead of going to break and losing some people.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah. Don't go to break, right? Hey, what's going on, guys? Now the real good-looking one's in here, okay? As you all know, right? Hey, Norm Bucher. Man, I don't know if you remember Norm Bucher. Norm used to box for me as an amateur. Norm was like, I used to call Norm like country.
I don't remember my damn kids' names. How the heck am I going to remember Norm Bucher? Sorry,
Butler,
Norm.
who would you like fights when he returns to the ring? Reggie Butler. Who would I like Travis to fight when he returns to the ring? There's a kid that's about 19-1, fought Chris Areola in his comeback out of Texas. I'd like to see Travis fight him. And then eventually, you know, I'd love to see him fight. Hopefully Andy Ruiz wins again and eventually keeps it right within the PBC family. And I'd like to see...
We got a Fat Boy tournament. Me, Andy Ruiz, and Adam Kanaski.
There you go.
And I'll make sure I gain weight because I lose weight for my fights. But I'll make sure I stay fat because I'm right now pushing 275.
That would be pretty good. You know, Christopher Brooker's watching, ice cold. Yeah, so let me ask you, the fans, who would you like to see Travis fight? You know, Travis has great boxing ability. Of course, he's getting older up there in age, but you know, in boxing, 34 is still young in the heavyweight division, but not too young. But
I'm middle-aged now.
He still has the ability to outbox a lot of these guys. We see what he did with Luis Ortiz, who we all believe had a needle in his butt prior to the fight. But still and again, Ortiz is one heck of a fighter, and Travis performed well with one arm. But we'd like to know who you guys would like to see him fight as well.
I got to answer a question real quick. Wes asked the question, Travis, who are the top 3 hardest punchers you've sparred and fought besides Luis Ortiz, who is a known roid user and a cheater? Well, the hardest I've ever been hit by was Oleg Muskayev. Even harder than Luis Ortiz, harder than anybody. But I stayed up. I was 17 years old sparring him. I personally, no offense to Oleg, I believe he was on some HGH. His forearms were the size of my forehead.
And that's a fact.
But he was the hardest hitter. That's first. Second was Hasim Rahman. Hasim Rahman's jab was ouch. That's all I said was ouch. Every time I got hit, I just tried to stay away or hit him and move.
Oleg, Hasim.
Next would be this probably Pep. I mean, well, Luis Ortiz of course is probably up there. But if you're asking about the guys that fought and sparred, there's an amateur kid that probably is just as hard as any of them. He's just not that good of a fighter where he knows. No offense to Pep, but he's not established enough to where he's able to know how to punch correctly to where it would be able to put me to sleep. But Pep hits just as hard as Hasim Rahman, Oleg Muskayev, and he's a cruiserweight. I think he was a heavyweight at that time. He's from Reading, and he's 0-1 as a pro. But as a pro, fighting-wise, I've always thought it was Mansour, and Chris Areola, then Mansour. But once I fought Luis Ortiz, he makes those guys feel like pillow punchers, and that's the truth. So that's my answers.
Okay, all right, that's good.
I think I'm still shaking a little bit from Oleg's shot when I was 17.
Yeah, that joker could punch. I mean, we saw him knock Rockman clean out of the ring. You know, and you know, being around the sport, of course you get to see some big punchers. How do you feel about fighters who aren't big punchers, but they find a way to win all the time?
Who, me?
Compared to fighters who can punch.
Like a Floyd Mayweather? I love boxing. I love watching Floyd. I could watch Floyd all day. People hate watching him fight. I love watching Floyd. I used to love watching many guys who are great boxers, but not guys who can't punch to save their life like a Paulie Malignaggi. I hate watching Paulie. I hated watching Paulie because Floyd was the type of guy he wasn't the biggest puncher, but he punched hard enough where he could really hurt you, and he made you look stupid at the same time. That's why I enjoyed watching Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got other guys. You mean in like
Just in general.
I enjoy watching, but of course, I love to see somebody that
Hector Camacho.
I love but those type of guys. They're not big punchers, but they hit hard enough that can hurt you a little bit. I believe.
You know?
That's just. I'm a fan of boxing. It's really the only sport I watch. I don't watch football, baseball, basketball. I either watch cartoons or boxing.
What do you think is happening with the landscape of boxing in general? How do you think it's done? How do you think Al Heyman has helped the boxing world or hurt the boxing world with bringing boxing?
You know,
to
people.
live
Al
TV?
Heyman gets so much negative feedback, and on a promoter's aspect, if I'm a business guy and he's taken from me, I guess I can understand why I'm mad. But as a fighter, and what he's done for me, there's things, of course, I'm not the happiest about what Al has done. I'm not the happiest that, of course, I fight once a year, but that's not always Al's fault. That's my fault too for my lifestyle. However, I think what Al has brought to the game, bringing PBC, free TV, free championship boxing, the fact that one thing we know about Al, and this is what people bitch and complain about all the time, is he overpays his fighters. He pays his fighters great when they're fighting. And as a fighter, when we're done boxing, and this is exactly why Floyd has made it a business. And this is why Floyd, people say he picked and chose his fight. Floyd made it a business because Floyd knew that once boxing's over, the promoters and everybody else is going to say, fuck you. You already made my money. I don't want to deal with you no more. Excuse my language. So what Al has done for his fighters financially, has paying them more than what most people would pay. When I fought
Al pays him well.
when I fought Chris Ariola, I made a nice amount of money. I'm not going to get into detail what I made, but I would have made not even half of that had I been with someone else.
Correct.
And I strongly believe that. So as a fighter, it's about this career is very short-lived. Get as much effing money as you can and get out.
That's why fighters never talk bad about Al. Al's always blessed them throughout.
Like I said, there's always things we could complain about. We want to fight more. We want this. But at the same time, there's other ways around it. Al would never turn me down on getting me a fight. But, of course, on the business side of things, he can't provide. Not that he can't provide. I don't believe that Al's going to get me 4 or 5 fights a year at the level what it costs to pay for my opponents. So on the business side of things, I get it. As a fighter, who doesn't want to make $250,000 twice a year?
Of course. Al has done wonders by fighters. I mean, he really has. And people knock him, but he's all about the fighter. For real. He's taken such good care of fighters throughout. I mean, my man Henry Ramirez just joined in with us, and Henry can attest to that. With Chris alone, how Al has get out. Yeah, how he's done so much. You know what I mean? So that's what's great about it. Al has changed the landscape of boxing, and he's done wonders by it. And
Al, if you're watching, I need a job after boxing. Damn it.
I know for a fact Al is not watching.
Oh, okay.
I know for. I
tried.
He probably has somebody watching for him, but he is not watching. But yeah, well, Henry's going to report to him. Henry's going to give him a call and shoot him a text and tell him, Travis Big Head shouldn't go back in the ring again.
Oh, them great.
But it's awesome.
Well, so if Al's giving me a job besides boxing, paying 6 figures a year, I would never hop back in the ring again.
And Al does that for people.
But I love fighting, so I will hop back in the ring again.
I'm still trying to get a job with him.
Look, I fought Ortiz with one arm. I just love fighting.
Henry commented on that. Who's Al? Who's Al? Okay, get out. Get out. Hey, so anyway, look, it's been fun with Trav.
I'm going to church. I got to go praise the Lord before Thanksgiving tomorrow, so.
Go give thanks.
Yeah, I should go do the same thing.
And we're going to continue talking about boxing.
Get out of here.
And talking about our upcoming shows. You out of here? All right. Now I'm going to move my seat over so I can bring back the handsome Andrew Foy back in the mix of things. And we'll continue talking about different things with boxing.
And I just want to say for people that are asking, I'm also Al Heyman. So people you don't know what he looks like, right?
This is the real Al Heyman right next to me, okay? But listen, we're going to talk about some things coming up. It was fun having Travis on. When Travis is on, our likes and our attendance, everybody's joining in and watching, and I think because Travis doesn't have a filter, uh, it just everybody loves to hear what he's about to say, or what he might, or what he just might say that's not right. You know, who knows? But I just love having it's great having him on the card and on our podcast here, and it was great having at his fight card on Saturday. I thought he did a great job. I thought the show, and when I say he did a great job, I thought he did a great job on promoting it, and he got a lot of love and support from the local people that I don't even know how they heard about the show, because he didn't advertise in the newspaper. He had a radio ad that was mostly hip hop, but there was people who came out that used to come to my shows at the River Edge years ago, and so I just don't know how they found out.
I think the radio ad was helpful when I was leaving the arena. Well, not the arena, the River Edge.
River Edge.
Got in my car. That was the first thing I heard was the radio ad.
Yeah.
So and
Wow.
they must have had pretty decent.
Yeah, no, that's
penetration.
great. I better start using that same radio station.
But you know, I thought about this before tonight. You know, it was Travis's first show. Main event falls out the day before the fight. I'm thinking, that's pretty bad. I mean, that's close to as bad as it gets in boxing promotion. So I figured I'd ask and I'd share my own story. You know, what was your worst moment, or kind of your worst moment in boxing promotion where you're like, I can't believe it's this, because people don't know what boxing promoters
I
go
think
through.
every show I have a worst moment. You know, really, there's so many of them that I can't really
There's got to be
pinpoint.
one though that sticks out.
It's hard. It really is. It's hard to figure what it is. I mean, one might have been fighter went to jail day before. You know, who knows? There's a number of them. I really can't pinpoint them because I've done so many shows. Seriously, I mean, I've done 150 shows, close to 200 shows in general. You know, so just there's been so many of them. I honestly cannot remember one in particular, but there's been a number of them. You know, I remember I started with 7 fights, ended up with 3 the week before the fight, then I ended up finishing the show with 6 fights or whatever it might have been. And but it's like a roller coaster. I mean, one day you think you have everything done, all the fights are matched, and the next day you lose half of them.
Yeah, I still think mine though takes the cake.
Which is
so. For people that don't know this, for people that don't know this, so when I started, I did all the setup, did everything for my events. Had the ring, trailer, gloves, all of the paraphernalia, the banners and whatnot. And before the weigh-in of the last event I did in Harrisburg, so it was Friday night. The event was on Saturday. I went to the trailer, which is where I kept the pole stand with the banner for the weigh-in. And when I got there, I wasn't planning on bringing the trailer. I was just getting the banner and the pole stand out and bringing it. The trailer was not there. It was
the trailer with the ring in it.
The trailer with the ring, with the gloves, with every piece of equipment that I owned to do a boxing event was not there. And I called you. I think you were the first person I called, and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but the trailer is gone, and I have nothing." I said, "Do you know? Can you hook me up with somebody for a ring and gloves for tomorrow?" And you didn't even say anything initially. Your first response was no.
That sounds like, or get out. That sounds like something I would say.
You can't be serious. And so for like minutes went by. No, I'm not kidding. Like and you're like, that's terrible. I'm like, I don't need you to tell me it's terrible. I just need some recommendations for how to keep this show together tomorrow.
I think I was at a show myself, wasn't I?
You had your own show at the Sands.
All right.
And that was a wild experience. I don't think it can get worse than that.
One of mine was this one stood out because it was so frustrating to me. Is when we did a show at the Sands Casino, and I had Frank Diaba as the main event, and I had the main event fighter come in days before, gave him $300 in food per diem, whatever it might have been, and check his weight. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm good, I'm good." Then that 2 hours before the weigh-in, he said, "Oh, I'm a little bit heavy." Gets to the scale. I said, "Well, you better get the weight off." Gets to the scale and he's 15 pounds overweight. That there was frustrating to me. After you fly somebody in, you pay for their flights, you do all this hard work, get their medicals done, and then they get there and they don't make weight. And not don't make weight by a couple pounds, by 15 pounds. So that was bad. And for you, I remember that night with the ring, and I made a call, I got it taken care
You
of.
did.
And,
We
and
got taken care of.
everything worked out.
It ended up being a great show.
And was that the one with that was on Fight Night Live?
It was, yeah.
Okay, I remember that. That was the one where Lando had two of his guys on.
Yep.
Yep. They
Yep.
both lost that night. I remember that.
Yeah.
But it was a great night. It really was. I remember that. That has to be bad when you go to get your ring to set it up and then the ring's stolen.
But it wasn't just the ring. It was everything. Gloves.
The trailer was there yet.
There was like 20, 25 pairs of
The
gloves.
trailer was there yet. Why didn't they just take the whole trailer?
No, the trailer was gone.
Oh, the whole trailer?
No, everything was gone,
They just took
including the
everything.
trailer. So, yeah, no, it was...
Somebody put that trailer on back of another truck and took off. And someone locally probably. That's what we think.
Who knows?
Who knows? Hey, but listen, talking about boxing and what's next. We talked about Travis's show. We talked about the great. For me, it was great as a father to see this show come together. And here I was working, putting wristbands on everybody, and I didn't have to sit around and act like a promoter, but I was working. Still didn't get paid for it, but it's all good. I was happy to see him do well, and it was fun going back to the River Edge again, and just seeing the atmosphere, the crowd, the small intimate setting, and it was a fun night. And I was happy for Travis, I was happy for Keishawn, I was happy for Luis Morales, and the fights were great. The amateur fights were good, but the pro fights were extremely good. Of course, definitely well matched up as always. But we have another big card coming up. We have two big cards coming up back to back. We have December 6th in Philadelphia at the 2300 Arena. As you can see right there on the poster that came up, it's Mike Fox going up against Johnny Ariano, which is going to be a great fight. Mike Fox is 21-1. Johnny's 10-1 with 9 knockouts. So you got puncher versus boxer. And Johnny's not, normally Mike towers over all of his fighters. Johnny's 6'2", and by far the tallest fighter that he's fought. And I've seen in the past, Mike had a little bit of trouble. Not trouble, but if anybody gave Mike a challenge that made the fight close was Anthony Mercado, who's also tall, who's like 6'1", And so this guy here is a big puncher. I think he's going to bring it, and I think it's going to be a pretty entertaining fight, and it's going to make Mike work, and he's going after Mike's ratings position. Mike's top 15 in the world, possibly number 10 by December 1st, and so we'll see what happens. Then we have Calvin Henderson in a fight that, in my opinion, should be TV quality fight. Calvin Henderson, who's 12-0, going up against Kink, as you call him, Kink Palana.
Oh, you call him that. I
call
was
him
calling
Kink.
him Jank.
Jank, Kink, whatever it is. Kink, you got to correct us on this. But who's 7-1, who's awkward, going up against Calvin, who's technically sound, which is going to be a great fight. And then, of course, we have another kid from the Maryland area, Marcus Bates, who's number 10 in the world at 122 pounds. So that's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. It's going to be pretty good. And then the guy that I'm extremely excited about, we talked about last week, who's a doctor, Devar Farhadi, going up against Bacchus. I'm trying to remember his first name. I want to say Vinny, but I don't have my bout sheet in front of me. But two undefeated guys clashing against each other. It's going to be a great night of boxing, And of course we have other fights on the card as well. And then we go into the following week, back to back. Only something that only King's Promotions can do. No one in our area is even doing that. December 14th, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we have Alicia Baumgartner, the bomb. She is, by far, she is a bomb, and she's going to be our main event December 14th, and we have a co-feature and Michael Polite Coffee, big giant of a heavyweight, and then we have Carlos Vidal on the card. We got some local fights on the card as well. So it's going to be a great night of boxing, and I suggest that people get their tickets and get involved. You know, the same way people came out and supported Travis. Come on out to these fights. The one in Harrisburg, you can't go wrong. I mean, $25 ticket prices, $50 ticket prices. It's something that we want the whole town of Harrisburg, Dauphin County, just to come out and support. You know, and it's going to be a great night as well. So, you know, what else can you tell us about the next two fights and how excited you are about these?
I'm extremely excited, and you're right. Nobody other than King's Promotions would do 2 shows in December of all months, which is like a terrible month to even try to be promoting shows because people have holiday plans and whatnot. But you know, we're doing these fights to get our fighters to keep them active and to keep them in competitive fights because we want several of these fighters to be world champions in the next couple years, including the main events on both shows. Mike Fox, Alicia Baumgartner, but also, you know, Calvin Henderson or Gank, who knows?
That's right.
And Marcus Bates as well. So, and Michael Polite Coffee. So this is what we have to do to keep these fighters active and to keep our commitments to them, and we're going to do it. Even if it makes us a little nervous, we're going to act like it doesn't. Right?
That's right.
So yeah, but the show on the 6th, awesome show, great lineup, fights that like we've said before, television caliber fights. The Mike Fox fight's really interesting. Arellano is tall and he's a puncher, and you know Mike does get hit. He's always taken a good punch though.
Right.
So I don't know that I question his chin that much, but it'll at least be interesting from the standpoint of, given that this guy is tall, you know, a little rangier than the average 140, 147 pound fighter, he might hit Mike a little more, maybe make for a little more drama. It's not that Mike's fights aren't interesting. It's just Mike is such a great boxer that sometimes there isn't as much drama with some of his fights because even though they're good fights and you're watching him put on a clinic, it's like, I know what's going to happen. And once the fight starts, he's going to box this guy's head off, you know, the whole time. And that can be a beautiful thing to watch, but not everybody likes it.
Mike's a heck of
as
a boxer.
much.
He really is. You know?
Alicia says she loves when we pronounce her name right. I think we pronounce her name
Did we
right.
pronounce it right, Alicia? Please say yes.
I think we do a great job with that. But then the Calvin Henderson fight with Jank, just such an interesting fight to me. I was talking to Jamal about it last night, and Jamal's like, "Man, I want to see that fight." He's like, "I don't know what's going to happen." I said, "To be honest, I don't either."
Yeah,
You know, it's just
I think it's going to be a great fight, you know, and you know we'll get to see exactly how good Calvin is. You know, you see Kank and he's 7-1, but he's awkward, but he's confident, and I think that's what takes him even further. He's confident, and that makes a big difference when you're in that ring. You know, just what Travis was talking about earlier, how confident Wilder is. Wilder is so confident because 41 of the guys that he's fought, he's knocked out, or 42, whatever it is now. He's fought everybody. Everybody he's fought, he's put to sleep. So that confidence takes you to a whole nother level, you know. And it's like anything that you do in life. So it's interesting to see, and we're going to see how confident Alicia Baumgartner is when she starts. She'll be promoting. Check her page out on Facebook. Alicia, why don't you share what your Twitter handle is, what your Instagram handle is, so everybody can follow you and keep up to date on what's going on as well. Same with Calvin Henderson, if you're watching, so it's going to be great. But we do have another announcement before we wrap it up. I don't know how long we've been going here, what time it is, but we do have another announcement that we're going to talk about, and the announcement is for January the 18th in Philadelphia. King's Promotions is excited to talk about how we're a part of this great event in Philadelphia. Julian Williams versus Rosario World Championship fight at the Leocore Center, live on Fox TV. It's going to be a phenomenal event. I'm excited about it. Co-feature is a kid called, they call him Little B-Hop, Chris Colbert, who's so talented, it's unreal, He can stand in front of the guys, make them miss. Just very, reminds me of an orthodox Pernell Whitaker, Not a very big puncher, but punches enough to get your respect, But that's going to be a great card as well. So, once again, King's Promotions is doing big things. Then we come back February the 14th. That's February the 14th, back in Philly again. Philly's a fight town for a showbox card at the 2300 Arena as well. So busy year. Look for us March 14th at the Sands Casino. Busy year for King's Promotions. Fighters who are signed to us will stay busy. We'll have opportunities, and that's one thing that we always try to do is prepare the fighters for tomorrow. So that when they have to step in that ring and be prepared for that tough fight, they're ready. Just like what we've done with Mike. Mike's done his work. Mike Fox, that is, he's done his work in the gym. He's done his work getting ready. But, it also took us putting him in the right fights for him to grow as a young individual. And he went from being a young man to a man, and I see that development in and outside the ring, So it's going to be great. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see DeVar Farhardy back. The ring doctor is what I call him.
So if he wins this fight, then he fights me for the World Doctor Championship of the world.
I don't think you won any parts of him. He's
Come out of
168
retirement.
pounds.
I gotta get down. I gotta come up.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to
come
come
on.
up for that. But,
Some needles in some
yeah.
needles.
What else can we talk about quick before we call it night? J-Rock, baby. Yeah, that's what Mario Guzman put. No, it's going to be a great night.
We got Marcus Rosas putting in a lot of pitches for himself
Okay, can get on
to
that undercard.
commentate, to do something.
Pivot, get on the undercard.
He wants to get on the undercard. He wants to commentate
Household
on the
fight is
6th.
gonna be nice. Okay. Wow. Marcus is putting in a lot.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's working tonight.
We might have to hire him. Take him away from pivot boxing. What do you think? Think you can do that, Marcus? Think we can pull you away from pivot boxing? But hey, look, it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great night of fights, and we have a busy schedule coming up in front of us, and we'll see what happens from there. But what else do we have going on here, Andrew?
I don't know. Why don't we talk about a few kind of national, international level events coming up?
Okay.
First off, what did you think of the Wilder fight?
Of course, like what I heard you and Travis talking earlier. Wilder took his time. He was patient. He made sure he stayed out of range for the most part. Even though Ortiz was winning those rounds, and there was times where Ortiz really looked good. And I was impressed with Ortiz's hand speed and some of the things he did. But like what Travis said, and what I believe in my heart as well, I talked with Steve Edwards yesterday, and Steve Edwards and I both were talking about with Wilder, you have to, whoever's fighting Wilder for that 3 minutes, every second of that 3 minutes, you have to be on point. You cannot lose focus, because the minute you lose focus and get hit, it's all over, And so I thought Wilder did exactly what he was supposed to do. I thought he did what he's capable of doing. He conserved his energy. And I see that I've seen something different with him in his fight game over the last 2 years. He conserves his energy. He waits till the later rounds when the other guy's blowing his load and getting tired, and then he sizes him up and takes him out. Unfortunately, sometimes Brazil he took out early. He took out trying to think of who else it was that he took out early. But guys who are real, herky-jerky and they're being apprehensive at the same time, like Spilka was beating him until he got caught, and that's what he has that no other fighter has in the heavyweight division, is that equalizer, and that's that power, and I think he's going to do the same thing with Wilder this time. He's not going, I mean, with Fury this time, he's not going to try so hard, but I think with the Fury first fight, he tried too hard. I think he's going to take his time, and I think he learned a lot from that fight. Take his time, be patient, and get Fury out of there.
Yeah, the only thing I would worry about if I was him or his trainers, Fury is such a cagey boxer. He, even though Wilder did catch him a couple times and he went down, he never caught him that clean. And I don't know that he'll be able to. And if he does give away rounds like he did, I'm actually somebody that didn't think it was that he lost the first fight with Fury. I thought a draw or even him winning would have been reasonable.
I was there ringside. I had Fury winning by a round, but a draw wouldn't have been bad, is what they called it. So it was. I mean, it was a very close fight. It was entertaining for sure. But Fury's what brought the entertainment to it.
Sure.
But I think Wilder's going to take his time. He's going to be more patient this time and not try so hard. And I think we're going to see a different Wilder for the Fury fight, and I'm going with Wilder. I have to. He has that power that it does something to people. I mean, when I saw him hit Ortiz, not on the chin, he hit Ortiz on the forehead.
Yeah. That was a different kind of knockout.
Exactly.
That was different.
You see guys get hit on the chin and their necks snap, but he got hit right on the forehead. And you normally don't see guys go on shots like that.
Right. Right.
So that to me was pretty impressive. The other fights that were on the undercard, I can't say a whole lot about them. I wasn't too excited about them. I sort of picked, even though I got to give Miguel Flores his credit and props because he fought one heck of a fight. He got up for Leo Santa Cruz. He really did. He got up and got up to that level of fight for his fight. He really rose to the occasion, even though he lost every round, or close, not every round, but
pretty close,
the majority of the rounds. But he really got up for the fight, and I gotta give him his props. I know Miguel personally; he's fought for me a couple times, and so, like I said, I gotta give him his props for that. And so, other than that, hey, there's not much to say about the fights. What's the nearest fight? What's the next fight?
Joshua and Ruiz.
That's this weekend, right? Or next weekend?
Next week.
The 7th.
Yeah.
And who do you like?
It's so close. I mean, I like Ruiz a little bit, but I'm cautious because of what Travis said with the weight loss and whatnot. Those people might think that's a good thing, but it's not really him.
No, I agree. And I've learned. I would always think that the weight loss would help, but going into a fight of this magnitude, I don't know if it will. And I remember when Travis was fighting Chris Arreola, and Chris was in shape. Chris was training, and he was, you could see him eating the right meals, and he had meals prepped and the whole bit, and you could see that he was losing weight. And I said to Trav during camp, I was like, man, look, Chris is really getting in shape. Trav was like, good. I hope he loses weight. I hope that he's in the best shape he possibly can be, because when Chris comes in shape, he's not the same fighter. He said when Chris comes and he's not in shape, he fights harder. It's just something, he knew Chris in that way, and he thinks that you might see the same thing from Ruiz.
Right.
I hope that Ruiz wins to keep it in the PBC family. But hey, look, anything can happen. It's over there in another country, and I know Ruiz looks good. His hand speed's great. He can still punch. I just hope that he can take it the same way without not having that weight on him.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big question mark.
Yeah.
So after that fight, I guess another big one coming up is the rematch between Charlo and Harrison. What do you think? Who do you think's got that?
It's going to be a good fight. I have to go with Charlo. I had Charlo winning the first fight. It's going to be like a chess match. Harrison, he's going to be confident for sure, but if Harrison, let me take that back. If Harrison can get under his skin like he did at the press conference, he wins the fight.
Yeah, I thought that was something.
Yeah.
I
He
thought
wins the
that
fight
was
because
something.
Harrison's definitely confident. So I take that back what I said about Charlo winning the fight, but I think if Harrison can get under his skin mentally, he wins the fight.
Yeah.
He makes it an easy fight.
Easy fight.
Yeah, by talking trash to him and getting under his skin and just staying sharp the whole time. Uh, who else is there? Then we got Tank Davis coming up. Tank is fighting
Is
Gervonta
that an
Davis.
interesting fight to you? To me, that's not an interesting
No,
fight.
Gamboa can punch, but can Gamboa take the punch?
No.
And that's going to be the question mark.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird fight to me.
Yeah.
There's so many people that I'd like to see Gervonta
Mm-hmm.
Davis fight right now. I don't think Gamboa would have been on anybody's
You
radar
wanted to
screen.
touch base on Russell Peltz and
Yeah.
an article that was done. I didn't get to read the article in full. I know you read it. What can you tell me about it? What did you see? What points did he make? And what do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I guess for boxing fans that are watching, there was kind of an interview that came out with Russell Peltz. I think it was pretty new, a couple days ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was done. It's a little older than that, and I'm blanking on the name of the site right now. But I'm sure you'll see it posted or reposted somewhere, and I would encourage people to read it just because it is a really good read. Um, you know, Russell is kind of like an encyclopedia of boxing.
Mhm.
They covered a lot of topics in the article. There were some
Maybe
things
that's why I didn't finish it. I'm sorry because it was probably
too
too
long
long.
for you. Some things I agreed with, and other things, I can't say I disagreed with them, but I haven't been around the sport probably long enough to have a perspective as far as that goes. I mean, one thing that a big chunk of the article talked about, um, Russell was pretty critical in terms of the business model of boxing currently, whereas the money is really coming from the network and the television deals, and not so much about the gate. And so promoters and companies are locking in television, and as getting money through television, and there's less interest in making sure the quality of the fights and where the fights are occurring is enough to really be attracting live audiences. And it was almost like he was saying that this is kind of a bubble where the value is not there to justify what some of the fighters are making in terms of payments due to the network deals. And I thought it was actually interesting. I mean, there's definitely
I know.
fights that we see on TV, and I think to be honest, something like Gervonta Davis versus Gamboa is an example of that. But where there's fights that are coming out that probably the boxing fans are not uniformly very excited about.
Right.
And is that the fault of boxing nowadays, or has it kind of always just been that way, and there's just more of a microscope on it now?
No, I think it's look, I don't. People aren't in today's society. People aren't familiar with as much of the Gamboas and the Tony Harrisons or those other guys that are getting this TV exposure. So it's hard to sell the places out when you don't have that familiar, the people being familiar with the fighters. People are very familiar with Tyson Fury, I think, and Deontay Wilder. Uh, that there is going to be a sellout, I believe. But when you don't have people being familiar with the athlete, I mean, how do they want to come out, and I think that's what's happening in today's society. So I think, what Russell says is right, but how can you sell a place out uh, when you're putting on a show 6 weeks out from the fight? It's really, and you're expecting a 5,000, seat arena or a 10,000 seat arena. You have to get out there. You have to do that guerrilla marketing and really spend money on advertising, which I think is something that's lost in today's boxing world. People rely on Facebook and they rely on some radio and whatnot, but and word of mouth more than anything. So it's different. Everything's changed with the sport of and the business of it and the how you get the word out. I mean, you see how we struggle, and we're using local guys in great fights. And so it's still tough. But I just think the guerrilla marketing is a way to do it. I think you have to get out there and sell it. And Russell can say that because he's been in the game for how many 50 years, and he's done it the good old-fashioned way, the grassroots way, by guerrilla marketing and using the same fan base. He has a lot of loyal fans too that come out and support him in general. Not so much the fight, but they support him because let's face it, that last show he did, in our opinion, I wouldn't pay to go watch those fights.
No, I agree with that.
But I think they did well because of Russell.
Yeah, another part that was kind of highlighted in the article that I thought was interesting. He criticized again. I mean, going along with the business model of boxing, but in particular Al Haymon and PBC. He said they're overpaying fighters, and it's made kind of a marketplace that has made promoting boxing events more difficult.
Yeah, but see,
maybe not as good.
If Al Heyman's overpaying fighters, so is DAZN, so is Top Rank.
Well, I think he would agree with that and say that they're just following suit, that they have to compete.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder who's really the one that did it first. Al didn't come on the scene until 4 years ago, in 2014, 2015, with PBC. Top Rank's been doing this for a long time, and they've been paying guys, overpaying them, in my opinion. When Top Rank was paying guys $2,500 for a 4-rounder, that was back, 8 years ago, whatever it is. Here we are. Al came on the scene and he started paying people the same kind of money. And then in order to lock the opponents in, he paid them whatever just to keep them.
Right.
So it's tough because you want to lock in that opponent, and when you have the resources to do it, why not do it?
Right.
I mean, if I had the resources to do it, I probably wouldn't question paying somebody $2,500 for a 6-rounder or $3,000 for a 6-rounder compared to paying them $1,500 or $2,000. When you have the money and the finances to do it, you just do it and you get it done with.
I think maybe some of the point to be made, or maybe the critical point to make, is that, and again, getting back to the business model, when you're able to do that off of network deals or television, but then it funnels down to the lower levels of the sport, and that money is still demanded, but you can't, it becomes unrealistic in terms of being able to make that with your gate. It does create a real problem.
It does.
And I think I agree with that, but I don't know I don't think there's a right answer to it.
Well, you know what the answer would be for PBC, for Top Rank in the Zone, for us guys like King's Promotions and DeBellas and other promoters and Russell. Hey, too bad. Step your game up then. That's what it would be like. It's almost like the New York Yankees when they paid their athletes more money than what the Philadelphia Phillies could pay them. Why? Because they had it. They could get it done. So now it becomes a domino effect that everybody has to start paying that kind of money. And does it hurt the small promoters? Without a doubt. But what do you think PBC and Top Rank and DAZN are going to say? Oh, we're sorry, it's hurting the small promoters. No, too bad. We still need those opponents the same way you need them. And because we can pay them $4,000 for a 4-round fight and you can't, too bad.
Right.
So it just comes with the territory. It comes with the business. And I think we as a business just have to find a way to step up our game that we can compete.
Right.
And not so much financially, but maybe there's another way to compete. Maybe there's a way to compete where we are doing just something different, putting on good quality fights for, less money somehow, some way. I mean, who knows, And I think we're doing a good job with that, but Of course, I wish we had DAZN's money or Al Heyman's or Top Rank's money, because we'd be doing a much better job overall. And we're doing a good job now,
Another thing he said that I think that we agree on, or that you and he and even I would agree on, he actually pointed out Floyd Mayweather in particular, but kind of this glorification of the undefeated record, and he thinks that's kind of again, not ruined boxing, but presented some challenges for making really good fights. Is that this idea that it's all about being undefeated. Once you're not undefeated anymore, you're devalued, or you're
See, but
not.
I don't think Al Heyman has that same mindset about being undefeated, because let's look what he's done. He's put Danny Garcia in with Sean Porter. He's put Danny Garcia in with Keith Thurman, knowing that one of those guys are going to lose when they were undefeated. Then when they lost, he brought them back in another very competitive fight. When Garcia lost to Thurman, he put Garcia in with Porter again. So he never once allowed that loss or that second loss or that third loss to hurt his fighters.
So, well, I guess in defense of what Russell was saying, I don't know that he was talking about that so much on the level of the promoter or their promotional companies, but it's kind of become a mindset that's bled into the fighters, even at kind of the earlier levels of this. I mean, we see this.
We talked about that last week.
You're
Fighters feel like they need to be undefeated. Oh, I got to say, of course, everybody wants to stay undefeated. Who wants to lose? But they feel like they're not going to get that same opportunity if they lose.
Right.
And that's not true.
And what I see is it stops guys early in their career who need to take tough fights to continue to learn and become better fighters, avoiding those fights to try to protect a record. And the reality is, look, you don't have 300 amateur fights. You haven't fought the best guy. You don't know what's out there. Like, you're not going to learn this by sparring at the gym with the same people you've been sparring with your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get that experience. You have to test yourself and really see where you're at and learn from that.
I'll give you a quick example. They might not like me for saying this, but Ryan Umberger stopped Brent Oren in both pro debuts. Ryan Umberger went on to win 2 more fights in a row, 3-0 with 3 knockouts. Brent Oren went on to win a fight, lose a fight, win a fight. Who's 2-2 now? They won't rematch him because they feel like Brent Oren could beat him, And why? Because Brent Oren has gained that experience, and I think Brent Oren just might beat him, because he's confident. He's confident even in his 2 losses he had. He's still confident, and he believes in who he is. And so I think sometimes that makes a difference, You got a guy who's 2-2 and you got a guy 3-0 that's so afraid to take that chance, You have to take those chances. You really do, And look what he's doing. I mean, look, you think they're protecting Deontay Wilder? He's in with the best.
Right. Well, now.
Yeah, he's in there now, of course, but he's in with the best. He was a medalist, and when you have some money behind a gold medalist or a bronze medalist or just an Olympian in general, you have to protect them to a certain extent because that's your investment. But then comes a time where you say, hey, it's time to shit or get off the pot.
And I think it's not just that, but there's something that, like you said, there's an investment. But when somebody makes it that deep in the amateurs, they've already, to some extent, proven their value, right? Like you already know that person can fight for the most part, can fight at the top level as a pro. So now your job becomes getting them there, right? Where that's different with so many of the guys that don't have that, and they still want you to make investments in them by putting their fights on and risking losing money promoting these shows, which doesn't happen, right? But you don't know how where they can go, and how can you, because they don't have 300, 200 fights.
Marcus, you didn't listen correct. I said he didn't beat him the first fight. I said that Ryan Umberger, I told you it would get under their skin. Ryan Umberger won the first fight, okay? But they wouldn't want to fight him again, okay? Because Brent Oren, in his 2 losses, had become a better fighter, okay? So that's why you don't want to fight him again. I didn't say you beat him the first fight. Rewind it and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, don't let it shake you up here, my man. All right, we're just talking boxing. Don't let it get personal. All
I
right?
just have to point out every time somebody takes a jab at Team Pivot, it's my partner. So remember that, guys. Remember that. No, but I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
But
no, it's not. Look, fighters get better with. Look, I'll give you another example. There's a kid that Russell made a match with, Deshaun Johnson. Is that his name? He fought
Jesse Hart.
Jesse Hart.
Yeah.
22-22, something like that. His record was.
Yeah.
He had Jesse Hart outdone. It was like the fight could have went either way. They gave it to Jesse Hart. You cannot knock a guy on his losses, and sometimes with those losses, they get opportunities, okay? Not the same opportunities as if they were completely undefeated, but, when you have that guy that's undefeated and they go to step up for the first time and then they lose, they might not ever fight again, because they're too embarrassed. Look, it's a tricky way of moving fighters, and believe me, sometimes you get fighters who they feel like they've done it all. That they're undefeated because they did it, not that it was a teamwork, And it takes a team. It takes a solid team to put the right fights in front of them, to allow them to grow. And I've done that. I've done that with Brandon Robinson. I've done that with Michael Fox. I've done that with every fighter I have,
Frank D'Alba.
Frank D'Alba,
Kermit.
Kermit, the list goes on. My son Travis, so the list goes on. And then but they built and they've gotten to that point and they fought fights. But if they had a big amateur background, things changed a little bit. And of all those people that I've worked with, the only one that had a big amateur background was Travis. You know what I mean? But the other ones, I've moved them and put the right fights in front of them. Just like with the Brandon Robinson when he fought Calvin Henderson. That fight could have went either way as it was going on until Brandon's eye got messed up and Calvin just took over with his jab and then started dominating him. But, I think Brandon became a better fighter because of that loss. We talked about that, King Palana, I think he's a better fighter because of his loss in Houston, Texas. So we're going to see. Now, do we want everybody to lose? No, we don't want people to lose, but it's part of the sport. It's part of the business that we're in. But if they lose and they get better from it, hey,
Right.
you can't be upset about that. It's only a time, And some guys, let's face it, some guys just, there's a number of fighters. Some guys have what it takes to become that world championship contender or that top contender, and some guys just would never have it. They could be 21-0, but they still don't have what it takes to fight those top level fighters because there's levels to this. There really are, And so some guys, it doesn't matter whether they're, 21-0 or 17-4. It's like it really doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes I think the guy that's 17-4 would be better than that guy at 21-0, just because they've learned different things to go through. And I think, like I said, I think Brandon Robinson's a better fighter because of that loss against Calvin Henderson. Unfortunately, because of his two losses, getting that opportunity on Showbox, and he's also older, is a little bit more challenging now than what it was if he was 14-0 versus 14-2. So those things happen. I mean, look at Raisa Lima. He'll fight anybody. He's sort of like the Michael Fox that, hey, I just want to fight,
Yeah.
I love it, and they perform well with it,
Yeah.
And can't too many people say much about Mike Fox. He's fought the toughest fights there are, I mean, when you got a guy like Michael Fox, who's still a baby, who goes and fights Chop Corley,
Oh, yeah.
And then he fights an undefeated kid who was 5-0, and then he fights Ergashaw, and then he comes right back and fights Fasilidian, yeah. And then after that, I put him with another guy who's 24-3. So Mike, I love him. He steps up, he'll fight, and you can see the growth in all that. So I'm excited about that. So
Marcus asked how was Nuggets fight last week? He didn't see it.
Nugget.
He lost the decision, but I thought I thought it was a good fight. I thought it
There
was
again,
close.
Nugget just don't let his hands go. It's the same thing, you know. One of those things he just almost fights like he's a sparring partner, you know.
I don't know. I thought he did a little more in
I
a
thought it
couple
was.
of the
I thought the
rounds
fight
this
was
time.
3-1, but he didn't let his hands go enough. You know, once again, you know, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He has ability, but he tends to play into. He's always a step behind the other guy, whether he fights Luis Morales, whether he fights Alejandro Jimenez, whether he fights Jonathan Torres, you know, and you can see it when he fought Rondarius Hunter, who he should have beat, who I thought he did beat, but he just goes through the motions, unfortunately, you know, and it's something with him, you know. So that's it. But there's a number of fights out there to be made, and 2020 is going to be a big year for King's Promotions, and we keep striving to be the best we can. We're not perfect, but we strive to be the best we can. So, hey, I appreciate everybody joining us. Andrew, you have anything to say in closing?
No, thanks everybody for watching. I do want to mention, just because we kind of made this twist last week, but the event in Harrisburg on the 14th is going to be a military, police, and first responder appreciation event. So for servicemen or police or EMT or firefighters, if you bring active ID, you will get in free to that event. So it's kind of something that we're doing to give back for the holidays. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there tonight, but I don't have much else to add. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, we'll see you in, I don't know if we're coming together next week or not. Stay tuned. I'll post it on Facebook. Andrew will post it. Stay tuned. Thanks again. All right, have a wonderful Thanksgiving too.
No, he's a boxer puncher, so he said he believes he's a better all-around fighter.
And there's a right hand that staggers Gallimore. And Gallimore moving forward. Leaves himself open to be countered, but Rosario has very tight defense.
He gotta, like you said, he gotta be more
For Guillen, that he's been with for 2 years. A nice left hook there that connected. And Gallimore didn't like that too much, and he is moving forward. But he got clipped with that left hook. Oh, and down he goes.
Wow.
In this 6th round, an uppercut there.
Oh, he hurt him again.
Another uppercut. Oh, my goodness, down goes Rosario.
1 minute to go. Oh.
What a left hook by Gallimore. And Gallimore sends Rosario to the deck.